Hello, and welcome back to From a Head Teacher's Perspective with me, Paul Urry. There is a moment in leadership when technical competence is no longer enough. You may already be an experienced middle or senior leader. You may be leading teams, shaping the curriculum, influencing the culture, and carrying significant responsibility. But headship asks something different again. It asks you to hold everything: vision, people, pressure, accountability, uncertainty, and still lead with clarity and moral purpose. Becoming a future head, purposeful, principled, and prepared, was a course I created for leaders standing at that threshold, not to rush them forward, but to help them step forward well. The course is about depth, readiness, and integrity, and about preparing for headship as a way of being, not just a role to apply for. The core belief behind this program is simple but demanding. Headship is a moral role before it is a managerial one. Schools do not fail or flourish because of structures alone. They do so because of the clarity, coherence, and values of the people leading them. This course, therefore, begins with the inner work of leadership and gradually widens outward, from purpose to system thinking to strategic action to sustainability. Each module builds on the last, helping leaders develop clarity of purpose, strategic understanding, relational authority, operational confidence, and personal resilience. What follows is not a list of skills, but a leadership formation journey. In Module 1, headship begins with identity. Before strategic inspection or improvement plans, leaders must understand why they lead and what they stand for when decisions are difficult and pressure is high. This module creates space for leaders to articulate their core values and moral compass, to explore leadership as service, stewardship, and responsibility, to examine the alignment or tension between personal values and organizational ethos. It allows you to reflect on the role of belief, faith, or personal philosophy in leadership. The work here is foundational. Participants will develop a personal leadership purpose statement, not as a slogan, but as a living reference point that anchors future decisions. This is the module leaders often find the most challenging and the most clarifying. Module 2. Once purpose is clear, perspective must widen. Headship requires the ability to see how the curriculum, care, culture, operations, governance, and accountability all interconnect. Decisions made in one area inevitably shape outcomes in another. This module will help leaders adopt the head teacher's strategic lens, understand the interplay between teaching, inclusion, safeguarding, and well-being. It will navigate governance, external accountability, and partnerships. You'll be able to appreciate the complexity of system leadership without becoming overwhelmed. Rather than treating leadership as a series of separate domains, this module builds coherence thinking, the ability to make joined up decisions that hold the whole school in view. Module 3, purpose and perspective. This must eventually become action. The module focuses on the disciplined work of improvement, not as a compliance exercise, but as a strategic, values-driven process. Leaders will explore what makes a school development plan genuinely effective, how to identify priorities that matter rather than those that simply look busy, How monitoring and evaluation should inform learning, not fear. How performance management aligns with collective improvement, not individual pressure. The emphasis here is on long-term thinking, moving away from reactive fixes towards sustainable, principled improvement, grounded in evidence and professional trust. Module 4. Schools rise and fall on relationships. This module centres leadership as relational work, the daily, often unseen actions that shape trust, motivation and professional climate. Participants will reflect on how leaders set tone through behaviour, their language and presence, how recruitment as a values-based decision, not as a skills match, developing and retaining staff through trust, recognition and growth. It will allow you to address challenge and conflict with fairness and courage. Culture is not something leaders announce, it is something they model. This module helps future heads understand how their leadership behaviour becomes the culture others experience. Module 5. Headship is visible leadership. This module explores how leaders communicate, not just through words, but through presence, consistency and credibility. Leaders will consider how to craft messages that are authentic and inspiring, how to communicate effectively with staff, pupils, governors, parents and communities, how to manage reputation and public presence with integrity, how to use storytelling to shape shared understanding, and leading through crisis or change with calm authority. This is not about performance, it's about trustworthy visibility, being seen, heard and believed. Module 6. Moral leadership must be underpinned by competence. This module addresses the practical realities of headship that are often learned too late. Finances, risk, compliance and operational decision making. Participants will develop the understanding of budget planning and ethical resource allocation, financial accountability and integrity, statutory duties and risk management, HR fundamentals and people systems, and using data intelligently rather than obsessively. The aim is not to turn leaders into accountants, but to ensure that they can ask the right questions and lead responsibly. But this must also be alongside business professionals and governors. Module 7. Headship is demanded, emotionally, mentally and morally. This module creates space for honest reflection on the pressures and loneliness of senior leadership, dealing with criticism, uncertainty and setbacks, maintaining integrity under sustained pressure, and building habits that support well-being and renewal, rather than promoting resilience as endurance alone. This module reframes it as sustainability, creating rhythms, boundaries and reflective practices that allow leaders to remain grounded and humane over time. And finally, Module 8. This brings the journey together. Leaders are supported to prepare for interview and transition with confidence, to build a leadership portfolio that reflects impact, vision and values, to articulate their leadership narrative with authenticity, to map next steps for continued growth and support. This is not about producing a perfect application. It is about helping leaders step forward knowing who they are, what they bring and how they want to lead. This is one course and 4 ways to engage. Every module is delivered through a long-form Substack article for depth and reflection, a podcast episode for accessibility, a video session for clarity and practical illumination, and finally a workbook for structured thinking, reflection, and portfolio building. Together, these formats allow leaders to learn in ways that fit real professional lives without losing coherence or depth. This is a course for leaders who take headship seriously. The course is not about speed. It is about readiness. It is for leaders who want to lead schools with purpose, courage, and compassion, and who understand that headship is not something you win, but something you carry. There are 40 units in the course altogether, organised into those 8 modules. Each module has 5 units within it. They will be released every Friday from January 2026 onwards. I look forward to being on that journey with you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.